the fact that you believe in what you're saying, because a lot of people just come up with stories and they don't really believe it, and it's showing, right? So be genuine, sincere. So you have some background as a project manager. Tell me what makes you switch to quality, and like why do you want to do this? What do you find interesting about software quality?
Hi everyone, welcome to our Saturday morning coffee podcast with Adeel and Evgeny, and we have special guest Liana Myagkov. She's a senior director of QA. Liana, hello.
Hi there.
Thank you for joining, and please tell us a little bit about yourself. Can you introduce yourself as well?
Yes, of course. Thanks so much for having me here. It's a real pleasure. So I'm Liana Myagkov. I've been in software quality for over 20 years at this point. My most recent role was as senior director of software quality engineering at a biotech company called Natera. We develop blood tests to detect genetic diseases and monitor cancer. So it's very impactful. Well, needless to say, I'm really passionate about quality. And but most of all, I really enjoy helping people grow in their professional career. So I'm really happy to be here and help.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm very glad that you joined. And I know Liana, like we've been connected for a while already. Like I know that Liana is also helping a lot of new folks who is transitioning to software QA and test engineering. And Liana, I know that you helped a lot of people as well with your devices, so that's awesome.
Hopefully. Okay.
Yeah, but we're gonna do the mock interview. Let me tell you guys, like, whoever want to participate, you can join to our Zoom webinar right now, and who wants to go through the mock interview with us. I know it's could be a little bit intimidating, but you can get the feedback, the real-time feedback that you won't usually get in the real interviews, right? Whoever want to join right now, just hit the plus sign in the chat. I will move you to the panelist list. But meanwhile, like we have several people joined already. We can talk about Liana. I had a question for you. I know that you interviewed a lot of people. I know that you also interviewed not only for IC role, like not only for QA engineering role, but also like managerial roles. And I usually ask this question to hiring managers, like, what are you looking in the candidate during the interview, and what are the red flags? And the same thing to Adeel. Adeel, your all fellow director of engineering, guys, and would love to hear your insights.
Definitely. I definitely have a lot of feedback in that regard. So for me, when I interview an individual contributor, which I think the process is slightly different than from a managerial role, so I usually evaluate two different things. One is I'm trying to gauge what is their level of experience with different technologies, trying to evaluate what they've been exposed to and how well do they know these technologies. And second thing is more about evaluation of mindset and potential. And I think that one is a little more important than your skill set, because you can't possibly learn everything, right? And you can't know everything. But what is your learning potential? Is this person technically curious? Are they interested in different technologies? Are they able to, are they going to ask questions and try to figure out the problem, or just give up right away? That I think is actually a lot of managers are looking for that, for someone who is, even if you give the wrong answer, there's no right answers. And even if you give the wrong answers, that's fine. But the fact that you are trying and you're trying to figure out the problem, asking questions, I think that's very important in the interview. So typically for me, that's really important for someone with who's more senior, definitely deeper understanding of technologies. You'll be asked about how things work. So if you work with something, you should really know a lot about it. Spend some time on research and dig deep, because that determines how good of a QA engineer you are. Right. So those are the most important things for me. Now, remember that, personalities is a huge factor in this, right? The drive, everyone is looking for enthusiastic people. So your energy in the interview really matters. Be positive, stay energetic. I know it's hard for some people because there's a lot of shy people out there. It can be challenging. But remember that this is your chance to showcase not just your talents, but also your personality, your confidence level. The fact that you believe in what you're saying, because a lot of people just come up with stories and they don't really believe it, and it's showing, right? So be genuine, sincere. In terms of red flags, and I have a huge list of them, to be honest with you. I do have a lot of red flags. First of all, and this probably won't apply today in the mock interview, but your enthusiasm about this specific position that you're applying for. You need to know a lot about the role. So it's not just a routine interview. You need to ask questions. You need to know what the company does. You have no idea how many people have interviewed that had no idea. Is this a financial organization? I have no idea what you do. That is nothing more disappointing than that, right? And in terms of senior automation engineers, sometimes feel very enthusiastic about manual testing. They feel like, oh no, my job is coding. I don't really do manual testing. So they really don't understand the concept of a strong quality engineer, because coding, yes, is an essential skills, but it's not the core skills for the role. You really need to know a lot about the product. You need to be able to test it. You need to be able to answer the questions about the product. So that is, for me, the one of the things I see a lot in automation engineers is that they don't know much about the products or testing, and that could be a red flag. In general, yeah. By the way, you guys can comment if you want to add something.
Diana,
Yeah.
Can you help paint a picture, like when you said you're looking for folks with knowledge of the products they've tested? What are some of the questions? What are some of the questions you would ask, or you would say that people should be prepared to answer around?
Great. Yeah, great question. What's the technology stack, right? What does the product do? How does it work? What are the main components? How do they interact? Those are the basic questions you should know about every position on your resume. Should be able to answer. I mean, if it's someone junior, I wouldn't go deep into the technology stack, but if it's someone who's experienced, definitely would challenge them on that. So definitely understanding architecture, what was the goals for the organization? What are they trying to do with this technology? What are the challenges they experience? That kind of stuff is very important.
Yeah. I think also last week we were just talking about also starting painting that picture, not just, obviously very important in interviewing, like you mentioned, but also start painting that picture in the resume, where people, people will just list the company, their title, and get into like the details of their day-to-day job, and not really highlight, hey, what does the company do? I think starts from painting that picture there, and then how you weave that into your introduction and throughout the interview.
Absolutely.
Plus any very specific direct questions, product related, that you need to.
Yeah. How did you make an impact? What were your accomplishments? What was the point of that job, right? Or is it just a job? I think
folks, I actually was recalling like how my resume looks like. Does it does it have these remember like what we discussed last time, like you have to, especially if the company is not well known, right? Like if it's not, even if it's Netflix, it's a huge company. What kind of product you was working on, right? Like what kind of project you was doing this, and many times, like a lot of, I would say 50% of resumes, they don't reflect, they don't describe. Oh, I've been just
I
testing
agree. I
box,
think,
black
yeah,
box,
I
white
see
box,
that
right?
too. Yeah. You have to showcase not just yourself, but your organization, right? Always speak positively about the organization. That's also a huge red flag. If someone says, bad things about the company they work for in the interview, that happens, unfortunately, that's not a good thing. Right. So those are really important things. And there's other red flags too. No goals. People that are not ambitious, don't know. Like, I know that many people think like the questions like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? It doesn't sound like a reasonable question. Well, it's a very, very important question. You think about it.
What would you say is what are some good answers to that question that you've seen?
Good answers, well,
ones.
honest answers, and like really, you need to know, you need to have a plan, you need to have goals, right? You need to understand what you want to do, what technologies do you, if you are into automation, you really like automation so much, you want to see yourself in an architect in 5 years. You want to see yourself as someone who provides technical leadership to the teams, gains a lot of knowledge about automation frameworks, right? Then you should say that this is where what my goals are, and I'm like, I want to learn these things and I want to get there. If you see yourself more in the leadership capacity, managing teams, right, you should say that I really want to be able to, like, I really enjoy leading teams, and I really want, I see myself as a manager in 5 years. And that means this person will work towards that goal, right? If you don't have a goal, you're just going to float. You're not really going to be that goal oriented.
I'll disagree with that a little bit.
Yeah.
Me personally, I don't like that. I don't ask that question. Perhaps I ask it in different ways. Maybe I'll ask it in, hey, what is something you've learned recently? And tell me, and explore that. Why did you do it? What are some of the things that are, maybe ask about trends in the industry, whatever the role may be, whether it's QA, DevOps, backend engineer. I like those questions to get that, to get an idea of their, just the curiosity.
I think,
but personally, I don't like, because
Yeah.
I'm somebody who's never, has a 5-year plan. I feel like, for me, 12 months is like a really long time to learn more and adjust. So I would know what I'm doing in 12 months, but 5 years would be, but I could see and that's why I'm asking you what a good, I can see the point of the question, right? The point of the question is to see like, how far you're looking ahead, what things you're enthusiastic about that you're not doing right now. I do see the point of the question. So that's why I was asking you, what are some good ways to for folks to answer whether or not they have exactly a 5-year plan, but how can they communicate that?
At least what is their vision of the future and what they want to learn? They have goals. I think the goals is what's important. And I think I unfortunately work with a lot of people that have no goals, and it's very challenging to motivate them, because if some people feel like, I just want to do what I do today, I don't want any challenges. And that is a huge red flag. You don't want to hire someone who doesn't want challenges and doesn't want to grow. Believe me. That's, so if people feel that way, they really need to think, am I in the right role? Is this for me? Because if it doesn't motivate you to do more and to learn more, maybe you're in the wrong place. Right.
I think that's the part that's really, that's the main idea behind that question, and figuring out somebody's drive, because it is a field where things are constantly changing, right? Things don't stay the same. How we work changes, technologies changes, products changes. and you're looking for that adjustment, right? Engineering, like, hey, you may join one team, work on another team. You're typically looking for that kind of flexibility. I think especially like many like small and medium-sized companies, you need that flexibility and to be successful. Otherwise, it's not a good fit. If you want to get a job, do the same thing over and over again. It's not a good fit at a small and a medium-sized company, right?
Yeah, definitely. I just feel like these people are not true to themselves.
I have a question for both of you. Like, Liana, you mentioned about the during the technical interview, right, or technical part. What kind of either it is assignments or it is like problem solving challenge? Like, what type of challenges you usually assign during this?
Yeah.
technical weeks?
Right. So for me, again, everyone has their own, there's different types of interviewers, and there's people really like to dig deep into specific technologies and things.
Let's say for maybe not senior QA role, right? Like for senior role, we pretty much understand like it's gonna be for sure like maybe coding challenge or problem solving. But like let's say for beginning roles, maybe for
Yeah,
people
for junior
join,
position.
yeah,
So
or like not senior role basically. Yeah.
here's what I do, and my interviews, they tend to be more challenging for junior people, because I really will challenge the way they think. What I like to do is give them a situation, give them a problem of testing something they've probably never heard of before, technology they've never worked with, and I want to see how they will approach that problem and what they will think of and what kind of questions they will ask. So, and I've hired a lot of people that managed to do that, to think creatively, even though they had absolutely no idea what I'm asking. So
Interesting.
I think a lot of agreement with that comment. I think it just you want to put that, you want to talk about a situation close to what work related, without, because basically you're trying to find a way to see if they have that skill without relying on experience. Like a senior engineer, you're relying on their experience, so you just ask them tell me about a time where you had to resolve this challenge, or how did you approach this problem. But with a junior person, you want to give them a fair chance. You don't want a junior role to be
they have
like,
no experience yet.
have 3
You
years
want
of
to see how they
experience.
will behave in certain situations, right?
Yeah, exactly.
They'll be thrown.
Those are like
things, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, and that's what happens. We hire junior people, we throw them on certain technologies, and we expect them to learn these technologies and to figure out how stuff works. It's really to assess their ability to break down the problem, to ask questions, to interact with others, to admit that they don't know something and they're stuck, right? How will they behave in that situation is what you want to know. And I think, yeah, so it was.
Yeah, I like what I like is like kind of a paired, like do a paired exercise, situational. Oh, let's test this app. Let's create a test plan. Let's create some test cases.
Yeah, you want to
more
give them hints too, like, because they're still not very confident, but you want to, and it's good when they ask questions, and then you can give them more hints and help them out, then that's okay. But as long as it's a thoughtful process, then you see that they're really trying to figure stuff out, and that makes you think that it's the right mindset.
All right, so
we have any brave people out there?
we have a person who shared with their resume, and he or she asked to review it. Let's start with this. I guess if people wanna do the mock interview, again, just as I said, just hit let us know in our chat, and I'll let you get in. but let me share my screen for the resume review right now. Okay. Yeah, this one. You able to see?
Yep, I can see it.
Okay. Let me. Looks like it was obviously edited for
That's
review.
fine, right?
Yeah, it looks like we have a deleted personal information. That's totally fine. Do you want to zoom me in?
Can you zoom out a little bit so I can see experience as well?
Yeah. Okay, we have
Right.
personal summary. I can tell right off the bat, like
Mhm.
1-page professional summary, I think it's too much.
Well, we could do resume review, but that would take much longer. I think that definitely we can provide
Yeah.
some feedback later.
Yeah.
All right, so there's a lot of different skills. I see that this is someone with extensive automation experience, right? Okay.
Okay, let's move to the experience. Okay. As that role since 2019 to present.
Okay, so that is that's 4-year experience or something like that. All right. And the web developer in the past. Okay,
Learned. Yeah.
got it. Computer science degree, master, great.
Yep.
Which is just not clear which, oh, College of Manhattan, okay. No, that's associate degree. So which university is this? I don't know.
Their master's is pending.
I see, but there's no name of the school.
Yeah, they took out.
I think
Okay.
they.
Oh,
took
is
it out.
that's on purpose? Sorry, I didn't realize
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay, got it.
Do you want to scroll up?
Yeah, I think I get enough. If you can just leave the page that focuses on the most recent experience, that'd be great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
great.
think they're taking, to Evgeny's point, just taking too much space, right? So they have worked at two companies. They're taking too much space in professional summary. They can probably drop the whole thing.
Yep.
And it would improve the readability of the resume right away.
Exactly. You just look what Liana just mentioned. Can you put me into the experience section, right?
Exactly.
Like, don't put me in the professional summary section. Put me in the experience section, right?
I think professional summary is important. Unfortunately, sometimes it doesn't convey the message very clearly, like what specifically. It needs to be a summary, right? And it's, if it's too wordy, too big, no one's going to go and read it. They want to understand, okay, what do you specialize in? What is, your biggest skills? What's your background in? And what are you looking for? So those are, it's important. But
I would just say in this case, since they've only worked 2 professional work experiences, I know, maybe I think to your point, maybe a bullet point, a couple of bullet points, maybe maximum 3, but it's not gonna, it's gonna, like in general, that I think that's good advice. But if you only have 2 work experiences, one is an intern, there isn't a lot to glean out of like an overall summary compared to somebody who's been working for like 15 years, 20 years. They may have something to offer by offering a couple of bullet points around summary, highlighting that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. All
But
right.
either way, trim it.
Yeah.
Trim it way down. They definitely need to get to, maybe get to 2 pages, if not 1 page itself.
I have a lot of feedback for the resume that I can share.
Go for it.
Let's do it. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I think again, there's a lot of stuff here. And what I see common mistakes with the resume is there's a lot of things like performing positive, negative tests on daily basis. don't put stuff like that. It doesn't really show, demonstrate your skill set. That's a given that you write in test cases. It's a given that you're doing what you're doing every day. Don't describe your job experience as what you do every day. More like, what are the biggest things you've contributed, right? What was your biggest impact? What were the accomplishments? What have you done and how did it impact the organization? I'm looking for things that demonstrate your skill set and your contributions, right? So there's a lot of language like participated in or involved in. Take credit for your work, right? Don't just, because I'm going to ask, and this is the first thing that comes to mind, I'm going to ask, how were you involved in REST API testing, right? Were you just like monitoring it, or how actively were you involved? So what is your contribution, not what the company does, right? Specifically how you contributed to it. What did you do? And there's a lot of great experience here, actually, right? Lots. So this is the type of, so someone who's this experienced needs to really frame it in a way that demonstrates the skill set, contribution, needs to be much more impactful. So yeah, so things like conducted end-to-end verification need to be rephrased, like perform verification, that, and how did it impact the organization? Like what was special about that process? How were you involved in it? Did you lead it? Did you plan it? Like what was specifically done in scope of that? And it seems like a pretty complex multi-layer system. I definitely would ask questions about this system and like what was the architecture like, and what layers of testing was applied, right? Like what were different types of testing? What was the testing strategy for this product? Because there's a lot of different things going on. There's web application, there's API testing as well, and there is, Cucumber.
I see redundancy in the experience, like a couple times Selenium mentioned, couple times Cucumber, end-to-end, like this type of REST. Yeah.
I think it's really good advice. Who's doing the right thing by getting the advice, putting it out there, but listen, it's going to be recorded, so listen to what Liana just said.
Yep.
And that can help you. I think she covered it really well.
Also, I saw Liana did a resume review in the crushing interview for a couple people. You should, folks, read it very carefully as well. Like, I really like what you provided, Liana.
Thank you. No, I'm happy to review more resumes. I think people don't put enough effort into resume. I think it's very important because resume is a reflection of how you see yourself and your impact in the organization, right? If you see yourself as someone who is a valuable contributor, that is how the interviewer will see you as well. So really think about your contributions, how they impacted the organization, what your next goals are. So that I think is it's really important. I would ask a lot of other things, like I want to learn from this experience, what was the test infrastructure like within this organization? Did you have a test framework, right? Everyone says, yeah, I've automated something. But it's easy to automate more or less these days, right? It's hard to write very good automation, modular, reusable, build a framework that's sustainable. So you'll be asked questions about that, and you'll be able to sell it. So not just show that you did some automation, but tell more about that automation and what your role in automation was. Because there's two types of automation engineers. There's people who develop frameworks, right? And really think about the automation infrastructure. And there's people that contribute to automation. They write scripts. And that's it, and both are really important roles, right? But it's a very different level of contribution. So, and that is what the interviewer will try to assess. How involved were you in the framework definition? Or were you just contributing? Were you writing tests by example, or were you actually building reusable components within that automation framework? So again, for more experienced people, think about if you have certain number of experience, so with certain years of experience, you need to grow, right? So you need to demonstrate that growth and that more senior mindset.
We have a question, like how to answer about the strategy, I guess, in the chat.
What's the testing strategy?
I assume so.
Right. So again, strategy is very important for any kind of product testing. That's what you build first, right? What is your vision of how will you mitigate, what is this product and how will you mitigate risks at different levels, layers of that system? What are the risks that you identify? As a quality engineer, you are, first of all, a system analyst. You think from system perspective, you analyze the product. You need to be able to analyze it at different layers. So your strategy is really building that overall test plan of your system. How, what are the specific components, first of all, and how will you mitigate risks at each layer? And what is your strategy? How do you know your test automation has good coverage, right? How do you define that? And how do you mitigate risks that are not covered by that specific layer? Do you have enough risk mitigation? And that's part of your strategy, your approach to testing.
Awesome. Yeah. Awesome. We have a first brave person who wants to do the mock interview.
Okay.
And I'll move to participants. Hey, you are able to chat with us.
Hi.
Hello. How are you?
I'm doing great.
All right. All right. Well, first of all, I want to say kudos to you. It's a really challenging and challenging move, but for sure you will get the feedback. This is very important, and wish you good luck. Before we're gonna start, maybe can you give us a little bit about your background, like what are you looking, what kind of positions you're targeting? And
Yes.
yeah.
Perfect. So I'm looking for roles mostly in junior to entry-level QA engineer roles with either an emphasis on manual or automation. So I'm looking to jump in. I'm making a purposeful pivot from incident management, which is a more reactive role, to something that is more proactive. I actually would like to learn more about the product, develop plans to ensure that it is sustainable or even just reliable for consumers once it hits the market.
All right.
Okay. Great. Well, first of all, thanks for stepping up. That's great and brave of you. So you have some background as a project manager. Tell me what makes you switch to quality, and like why do you want to do this? What do you find interesting about software quality?
Ooh, wow, that's a great question. So the number one thing that I find really great about quality is that you could really see the inside of what a developer intends to make and how users actually use it. So I want to be the middleman to kind of tell developers like, hey, the product that you've developed is being used in a way that consumers are finding difficult or in ways that they are enjoying it. but mostly just to see like where the bumps and grooves and where I can come in and kind of just say like, hey, let's work together to make this a solid product for the consumer.
Yes, definitely. And let's talk a little bit about technology. So how much do you know about APIs, for example? What is an API?
Yeah, so wow, a little nervous, but
Okay.
so
You
my
have to give me a definition. Like, what do you think it is and what it's used for?
Yeah, so it's an application, it's an interface. It's a call being made between one system to another, being shown front end and back end. My knowledge is still developing with it. I will say that I'm still growing to understand APIs, but I do understand the functionality of it. I just don't have much practice in performing tests outside of just simple like post and get requests and maybe like some delete actions with APIs.
Okay, sure. When it comes to testing, what is a corner case? How do you understand the concept of corner case?
Oh, that is a concept I am not familiar with. I think that's something I will need to
Okay.
I can add to my, yeah.
Are you familiar with boundary conditions?
Yes. Sorry, my brain's good. Hopefully not blank out, but yes, I do. Oh, I'm just recalling some knowledge. Okay. I will have to follow up with you on that because that is something I know in the back of my head, but I don't want to not give the wrong answer, but an answer that's not.
Well, let's say, okay, I'll help you out a little bit. Boundary conditions is about the input parameters when you're testing something, right? Let's say you're testing a web page. What values would you test for a specific, let's say, text field, like customer information? Like, how would you define these test cases? What would you think of? What different input parameters would you use?
Yeah, so I would think of what are we accepting for input values, such as would it be numbers and letters, a sequence of just letters, and also validate that they are, and special characters. I would test to make sure that we can accept a variety. However, we would make sure that it's not people injecting code or injecting something to spam. So I would just validate that they can enter the name, first name, last name, maybe even location. Zip code numbers would be something I would, yeah.
Okay, sounds good. So you mentioned in your resume that you learned JavaScript in functional testing. Can you tell me a little more where you learned that and what your experience with that automation is?
Yeah, so I'm self-taught. So right now I'm learning a lot through the Ministry of Testing and also through Test Automation University. So those are the two resources that I'm using to get knowledge while also going through and interacting with women who code. There's a Slack channel and I ask questions there, I show up to meetings. So when it comes to functional testings outside of that on my own, I am creating projects that are testing functional sites on the RESTful Booker app. So I'm doing testing, functional testing that way, making sure I can input specific data and retrieve information. I'm also updating and editing information for the booking app as well.
Okay, great. And what is Cucumber? You listed that under automation. What is it?
I did, and you know what? That should have been removed. I know that is not accurate because that really is.
You're not familiar with the product.
Yeah, that's something I put on there, but I should have removed that.
Okay. All right. And what is your exposure to Python, which is also mentioned here? So Python is another language that you've used?
Yeah, Python was actually, Python was the first coding language that I got into. It was also something I wanted to maybe move into object-oriented. So that was something that was listed, very beginner, very easy, and it's mostly always built on most Mac devices. You can easily go in and start coding in Python. I've built a few, well, I haven't built a few projects out. I've gone through and made a couple like calculators, but to be honest, I think I let my Python knowledge slip and moved more to JavaScript to focus more on like front end.
Okay, sounds good. Can I provide feedback at this point, or do
Yeah, please. Anything is very helpful.
Okay, I have a lot of feedback for you.
Okay.
Well, first of all, you sound very enthusiastic and confident, which I really like. You bring a lot of energy. So that actually sets like, the mood, a really positive mood for the interview. So it's a real pleasure. So it doesn't feel like, even though you're struggling with some of the questions, it feels conversation flows, which I think is really nice. So that's great. In regards to your skill set, if you are learning quality, you need the foundation. You need to learn basic terminology for software quality methodologies. That's something that is expected. Every quality engineer needs to have that kind of knowledge and background. Even if your focus is automation and you just want to do front-end automation, you need to understand the basic concepts of testing and boundary conditions, something very basic. So you need to take a course and learn basic quality methodology. So that's what I would recommend. What you put on your resume, you should know. Right. And that's, I think it's clear. Every tool listed under test automation, every language, you need to be able to explain what you know about it, and your level of experience and what it is, at least, right? So don't have a single skill listed on your resume that you've never heard of or not able to explain, because that will lead to a lot of questions. So that's just my advice. And I'll, not everything on your resume you're going to have, you will be an expert in, and you can always say, what, I don't have as much experience with Python. But it's a language that I've also explored and I'm learning right now, right? So you don't have to back out right away. I didn't ask you any questions on Python yet. So yes, you should be adding things that you are more comfortable with, of course, right? But also don't be so quick on saying, I don't know this, right? Take a risk. And
I'm a risk taker, so I'll do it.
So don't be quick. You might be able to answer questions. So don't make it too obvious right away, right? So that would be my advice. And of course, you need to demonstrate in your resume and also in your introduction why like what brings you to quality assurance, because your background is different, right? So how does that background lead you to your current role? You need to bring up things about your previous experience that is relevant. And you can say things like, well, as a project manager, I've interacted with quality engineers. I know how, it interests me and I have a lot of skills that will help me with that role, right? So you can bring in and relate your previous experience to your aspiration. And I think that can help you.
Great.
You guys want to add anything?
Well, just a question. You mentioned you were using a couple of resources. One was the Test Automation University. That's a fantastic resource. By the way, it can like quickly take you from on a particular framework or particular area of it. It can take you from like zero to basic knowledge. Love it. What was the other one you mentioned?
Ministry of Testing. Ministry
Yeah,
of
another another good resource for sure. I love the I would follow through on the advice Liana had for you around around being very knowledgeable about the things you have, also about your storytelling. I think that's a really good point. When you will be asked this question over and over again, why QA engineering? It needs to be an authentic answer, but it weaving in your previous experience makes it even more relatable, and puts you in a very good light.
I can also add that you have a previous experience is really good and fantastic to transition to QA. I think you don't really utilize this. You have bigger advantage compared to other folks who want to jump into software testing, because you have pretty relative experience. You've been monitoring DNS, and you've been troubleshooting networking issues, which is very similar to what testers do, right? You just need, because the first line, like production monitor, detection, and response manager, it really didn't tell me that you've done that. So you probably need to think through about the title. And title, it doesn't really matter, like, because the title matters for us, like who is reading it, right? But if your current title was exactly production monitor detection, it doesn't need to be that in there. Once it should be very descriptive. Oh, I've been, I don't know. I would do some research, but it should be very, eye-catchy. Like, oh,
you can change the words a little bit and make it more relevant to quality. And I would add that to professional summary as well.
Exactly.
Right, your troubleshooting experience is very important and very relevant.
It is exactly. And you have just 3 bullets. I would probably expand more than that, right?
Okay.
Like, because you need to think through, like, what relative to software testing, and they're actually very relative. You have very relative experience. You need just to expand and emphasize, without no-brainer, like without actually reading line by line, right? Like, I think
I would even add the project. I'm sorry, the latest projects that you worked on. You can probably add that as experience as well, because that will demonstrate how you've learned quality as well. I mean, it is learning projects are all. It's also experience, right? So you can add that to your experience.
Awesome. I did actually have a few questions myself. Is that okay?
Please, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So thank you for all the feedback. I think I'm going to go back and definitely do some edits to it, expand more on the bullet points. I think the reason why I put 3 was that, we're told all the time that recruiters only have, 30 seconds to 60 to really review your resume. And you have to really make an impact. So I thought, like, by putting 3, that is, impactful, but maybe I should expand a little bit more. So I'm definitely going to do that. My question to y'all is that what really shines when you're looking at a resume from someone who's making a pivot? What are some things that you're really looking for?
Can I tell first? Like, for me, these 2 lines, they changed for sure. Like, you're not something that accidentally decided to come to QA or software testing. You've been doing this, and this is, your experience, right? You have relative experience. That's for me.
I think the biggest thing you have to keep in mind is that you're trying to stand out from a crowd, right? Liana knows this. Like, you post a entry level or junior QA position, you're gonna get 1,000 resumes in like first 3 days. So when you think about it that terms, it's also a numbers game, right? When you're trying to pivot, you're trying to look for entry level jobs. You have a lot of competition, right? And you're looking to so what you're looking to do is differentiate. yourself. Some of the differentiation you'll already have, as an example, your experience. The other sort of differentiators that the levers you can pull is like, I mentioned that you could talk more about your projects. You have we didn't look at it, but make sure your GitHub profile is there and you have relevant things there. I think that's the biggest thing. Being in production monitor or an incident response manager means that you've done like high-paced work. Like that's something that differentiates you, because if you're targeting QA engineering role, they will be very, very fast-paced. They'll be very, very fast-moving. Debugging is part of it. So I think a lot of it you have, some of it you need to highlight a little bit better in your resume, and some of it you need to do a little bit more, in depth of those key skills. So you can, you don't need as much stuff on your resume as far as technical skills, but you do know you want to make sure you're able to show it in your GitHub profile. You have it in your resume, and then you're really able to like talk about it in depth. Those are the things that will help you, whether it's from a resume or an interview, to differentiate.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with all of this. I think in my experience, our probably most successful junior QA engineers like that were able to, to grow really quickly were candidates that transition from different technical roles to QA, right? Because you have that background, you already dealt with technology. So it's a lot easier for you to learn to acquire QA skills and transition, and that background really helps you. So that does play in your favor a lot. For me, though, I would, my first question when I looked at your resume was, what does she know about QA? Right? Is this someone who has done a lot of other stuff and just wants to jump into QA? But will this candidate be able to learn quickly to understand quality methodologies, or are we going to have to teach them basic things, right? How to use the tools and how to test, because that is something you should, that's the background you should have. So I would definitely, work on methodology. I definitely would work on that and demonstrate that you've learned that as well. And just coding skills does not, it's not enough to become a quality engineer. There's a lot more that, basic skills that you need. So I would just say that, yes, definitely technical background is very important. That, again, that, how your technical depth, how many tools and products have you been exposed to understand how software works, right? Is what I'm trying to assess. Like, is this person able to analyze software? But then also, is this person trained on quality methodologies? Do they know how to test? Do they know how to work with test documentation that kind of stuff?
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much for participating and being very brave. We have a question, and this is also related to your question about like the structure of the resume. It doesn't matter how many bullet points it has, right? As long as it makes sense, and the content is the most important part. Andrew was asking about the multiple keywords. Please, all your resume will be written by humans, right? By people. And there's a myth that, you should dump your resume with a lot of keywords to get picked. Well, yes, you might get your resume ranked like maybe out of 100 to the top, but then your resume will be reading by the person. And if it doesn't make sense, like, okay, it's just another filler wording resume. Trash, right? To the trash can, delete, whatever. So please don't do this. Write your resume for people, and the skills section where you can put your listing skills and the keywords that you familiar as well, right? Not just, oh, because everybody's Cypress is a buzzword and I'll just put it there. If you have never touched it, don't put it, right? So keywords is important, but not that important as readability and the formatting, and people will be reading it. That's my basic advice. Yeah, and I hope it was helpful. We're already getting to the time, and folks, thank you for joining. If you have questions, please post it in our crushinginterview.com website. Join us. We do this weekly, resume reviews, mock interviews. Liana, thank you very much for your help. Thank you for
You're
joining.
very welcome. Thanks so much for inviting me. I'll be happy to review more interviews and crushing interviews. So please post your resumes. I mean, I'm sorry, review resumes. Please
And
post
we will,
them. Yeah.
we will invite you more often.
Yeah. That's what I was
Sounds
gonna say. It
good.
was
I'm
very,
looking
very
forward.
enlightening. It was very enlightening listening to you and just the way you
Likewise, I
broke
really
it
enjoyed
down
this.
for-
Thank you, guys.
All right, folks. I'll see you next Saturday. Join us and yeah, come join
Great,
to Crush
and
Interview. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
bye.